Hello, how are you? Welcome to Cafe IO. In today's video, we will talk about Visual Studio Code and we'll walk through, I'll try to show some of the great features that this IDE has, some good plugins that I use, plugins slash extensions that I use in my day-to-day development. We'll go over remote development, we'll touch upon APIs, we'll touch upon how to develop using Kubernetes, we will touch upon version controls, and we'll also touch upon probably how to develop if you're using a cloud provider. So stay tuned to the video, watch the video till the end. We'll also talk about how this IDE compares against something other like PyCharm that I used, which has recently added an AI assistive feature, something that I talked in my previous video. Let's get started. So when you open VS Code, this is how you're greeted and this is the screen. So I'm gonna look up there and switch off my cam. So this is the VS Code window. Now when you start, you are greeted with something like this, empty screen. You don't usually have plugins like I have. I've installed a ton of plugins, but I'll talk about them one by one. So let's first take a look at the menu options. So you have the file menu, you have edit menu. File menu is usually used to open folders, create new files and stuff. Edit menu can do comments, find and replace, cut, copy, paste, most of which you would cover using shortcuts. The selection is a good one. You can probably learn again shortcuts here, but these can be used to select a specific piece of code, a specific variable and stuff like that. View can, view is more like seeing the different sections that an IDE offers, like changing the appearance, editor layout, explorer, search, source control. You can enable and hide and decide, but most of view can be accessed by the command palette, which is the best feature. So command palette in Visual Studio Code is the central place which which will give you access to anything. So it's Command Shift P, and this can give you all the menu listing options that you have within VS Code. For example, if I want to type theme, I'll do theme. If I want to do something in Python, I don't have anything here. You can do settings. Why is it not having? Okay, it just went back, so I'll have to Python, so it will give Python. I think I accidentally ended up selecting something. Yeah, now this arrow gives the preferences. So all of the options that you have are available within this menu, within this selection option, within this command palette, and that's what is that's what is something that you'll use most. You can for instance invoke your build conversations here. You can do SSH from here. Everything is accessible from here, so you just need to learn to use the shortcut. I use that a lot, and that's probably the most important command you need to remember. Again, Command Shift P, preferences is what I call them. It's called command palette. So on the left hand side, you will start with Explorer, which can be used to open a folder. We'll talk about that quickly. You can actually clone a repository directly from two places, GitHub and Amazon Catalyst. Both are available. I have only connected GitHub, so if I want to do this, I'll have to allow, and it will go to GitHub and it will open this. So it'll give me all the repository names that I have. So it's kind of directly connected to GitHub. It kind of pulls all my repos that I have, and I can pull and access any one of them here directly without having to worry about it. Couple of more options. So that's Explorer. Search is search. You can search and replace. We'll talk about this when we have file. Version control, run and debug, and extensions. These are the default one. I'll get into the extensions that I've installed separately. Then I want to talk about some settings. Once you sign in using GitHub, you get a couple of options, like your settings can be synced, which is effectively you can sync your different extensions. If you work across multiple laptops or environment desktops, you can turn on remote tunnels. So for example, you're working on Windows and you do WSL based development, you can quickly have this plugin installed, and what it will do is it will open an instance of VS Code within the WSL environment. So everything will be Linux and all that just by pushing this. So these are some nifty options. You have some more settings that you can do, but this is kind of an exhaustive IDE customization, I'll say. You can change your font, you can change your app specific features. For example, if I search for Python, it will give me everywhere Python comes in. You have Jupyter specific settings. I've made some customizations here, but as you progress using the IDE, you will probably want to go the easiest and the most commonly used ones are, the font family that you use. So for example, if you see, I use JetBrains Mono. So you have to download it and you have to capture that. You can change font size. You can also change, I think, themes here. Yeah, you have Workbench theme here, and I have tons of themes. I like to download them. You can invoke the same using Control Shift P, do a theme, and you can always request more themes or download more themes that are previously installed. So that's some of the core IDE features. Let's go to extensions and talk about the ones that I have, specifically the ones that I recommend. The first is a Remote Explorer. If you work with cloud a lot, this is great. I don't have a connected machine, but I'll show you how it works. Just click on plus, type SSH anything. So I'll just put 100.5.5.5. Okay, 100.5.5, and you can select a configuration file. I don't have a configuration file by default, but I'll just use this. And what it will do is it will add a terminal here. You can actually double click this and it will try to connect to it. Sorry, let's connect to it. It's trying to open the remote, and as you can see, setting up SSH host, but given that this is just a dummy IP, nothing's gonna connect and it's most likely going to crash or something. But this is very useful if you work in a remote environment and you kind of want to SSH quickly in and out. This is one feature which I really like, and I don't know how to do this in PyCharm, so I use this for that purposes. I'll just quickly go and remove this so that it gets removed from this. I would not have. The next is Docker. I don't have Docker running right now, but I'll quickly spin up Docker on this machine, and let's come back to this. Right, till then, this is one amazing plugin, right? This is called OpenAPI plugin. You just go here, type OpenAPI, and you will get an extension which is this OpenAPI Swagger editor. I think this is the one. Yeah, this should be the one. So the moment you click on new OpenAPI file, right, it kind of gives you the entire structure, right? The path, the tags, the operations, the components, security information, and you have your test server. So everything with the OpenAPI spec is listed here. So you kind of see the entire structure of your API spec on the left hand side, and you can work with it. It kind of integrates very nicely. You can visualize it nicely and things like that. So I find this plugin really nice if I'm looking at an API spec or reading some of them. There's some features here, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is some security check I don't have. There was one, yes, this is the one I was trying to say. So if you click on here, right, you can get the complete Swagger UI preview on the right hand side. So you can do the development, make changes in your UI, and try out the Swagger UI and test something here itself. So it will give you an execution, and these are just test servers that are running. Let's go back to Docker. Now if you see, what has happened is I have started Docker, and I'll quickly pull that up. There's just one image that my Docker installation has. We'll talk about Docker in a different video. If you're not familiar with Docker, don't worry about it. So I have an extension which I use, which is called a disk space utilization. It basically tracks the disk that is used by Docker across the installation. So there isn't anything right now. I just have 7 bytes. You can very clearly see that the images are here, and it's kind of showing the details here. There aren't any containers, so it's just pointing out to a tutorial. But if I create a container right here, it can very quickly, it will just get the container here. I can connect to a different multitude of registries, Azure, Docker Hub, some private Docker repository which is generic, or GitLab or something like that. So that's Docker, OpenAPI, AWS. each cloud provider, I want to actually call that out, and I'll show each cloud provider has their own set of tools available. So for example, I'll quickly do installations here just to showcase the capabilities. Google Cloud Tools, and this will take a couple of seconds, so I'll come back to it. But each cloud provider kind of has their own tool set for available for when you connect to different cloud providers. So for example, when you connect to Google Cloud, it will give you a list of Google services, and the icons will come here as in when I restart this, right? So if you connect to AWS, you can get all the AWS services listed here. By default, it does have some developer-centric services, something like Code Catalyst, CDK, and Coast Whisperer, but I have not connected to any AWS accounts, hence you have pretty much nothing here. But this is kind of a very useful tool. Now I also got Azure. Now if you see again the same thing, if I sign into Azure, let's just sign into something and see if I have if I'm getting something. Okay, there's no subscription found or something, but it works the same way, right? It will give you databases, all the services, and the VMs, the clusters that you have installed. So this is also a very nice plugin, and same as Google Cloud. I think Google Cloud already shows you the categories before. I actually don't like this view because this forces you to each of them is a separate one. There you can, once you install, you can see all the services, and it's very dynamic. I prefer the Azure and AWS one, but what the heck. So this way you have all the cloud APIs, everything is available if you want to check out here. So it will show you what you have, it will show you the library, it will show you the details. So all of these are cloud provider provided tools. If you want to uninstall, just go and click uninstall. It will just remove it from the left hand side. I don't work with Google Cloud at all, so I'm just gonna remove it. I'm gonna leave Azure for now. That's Azure, AWS. Then you have Kubernetes. I don't have Kubernetes clusters enabled. What I can do is I can quickly, no, this will actually take a bit of time, but if I enable a Kubernetes here, it will start to show a pop-up here. I don't have Minikube installation either because it just chews up memory, and I'm not doing any sort of development in the cluster, but it will show up all the cluster information, all the Helm repos, and all the cloud that are registered. So cloud registration basically means that if your Kubernetes is running on a certain cloud like Azure Kubernetes Service, OpenShift, Microsoft, K3D, it will just understand it and showcase it here. Lastly, why did this not go away? Probably it needs a restart. Yeah, it will need a reload, it will go away. So this is GitHub. If you open any folder, it will show you changes. So what I'll do is I'll now actually open the folder, and I'll use this menu to open the folder to showcase. So I have a folder called GitHub and a repo called Playground. This is mostly Python file and notebooks, but if you see here now, it will be able to showcase all of the details, all of the version control changes that are here. So if you see the source control is showing some changes in Telegram bot, walk forward optimization, and portfolio optimization. Most of my notebooks, there's slight changes that I have done, so it showcases it very nicely. It just shows you the diff directly, which you can use to see or accept. This is more from a GitHub standpoint. This is more from a file standpoint. So if you make any pulls, commit, it will show up here. I don't think that there's anything assigned here that are created. So this is from a GitHub perspective. I actually don't need this. I will probably uninstall this. So these are some of the good extensions that I have. Beyond this, I'll also want to give you a rundown of what extensions I use, because some of them are not don't have icons. Want to go specifically into Jupyter. Yes, so you will need this plugin to work with Jupyter environment within VS Code. The way it works is, behind the scene it interacts with a conda environment or a Python environment and takes the endpoint for the Jupyter instance and then kind of runs it. I'll give you a quick demo of something which should run very easily. So if I run this, right, so all I did is, press shift enter, and command shortcut works here. You can do this, execute shell. It'll ask you what kernel do you want. I have default Sparrow, which is my Anaconda environment. And this is a Python 3.8, 3.10 or something, 3.9 environment, sorry. And as you select to it, it's gonna connect, and yeah, you have now, a working Jupyter environment. I like this more than a traditional Jupyter lab or Jupyter IDE or the Jupyter environment web-based. This kind of is easier for me to do version control. I can very quickly see what I made changes. For example, if I go from here, I can change this and it'll just pop up in, yeah, here. See, I just made these changes. So version control is easier. If there's some some code that I want to drag drop, some snippet that I want to do, it's very easy. And there are some settings you can do. You can customize the layout. There's tons of plugins you can install. You can change the color and all of that. Theme changes are also present here. Yeah, this is version control itself. Yeah, and yes, this is also another feature which I like. A lot of times when I do this is mostly a code which is for finance. So what I do is I copy paste a lot from the previous one to this one just to do some increment. So opening them side by side becomes very easy, which again, I know it's possible in Jupyter Lab, but this gives me a better view and I like the color theme better. Personal choice. And yeah, that's it. That's mostly the I will say details on the ID in general. There's a lot of, okay, I was doing a walk of my extension, sorry, chop this off. Continue listening. Yeah, so toolkit I've talked, Azure account I've talked. This is used for single sign-on to Azure app services. Actually don't need it. Uninstall container apps, don't need it. Azure databases, don't need it. The developer CLI telemetry stuff, don't need it. Azure, I really don't like it. They do install a lot of bloatware, pretty much everything. Azure specific tools, don't need it. Yeah, this is the community material theme, which any reloads require. This is Docker, which I already talked about. GitHub pre and pull and issues. I can actually remove this also. I kind of use GitHub desktop. Go programming language support. IntelliCode is AI assistive development. Very good feature if you want some recommendations popping up, although I mostly use PyCharm and their AI assistant is a lot better. Jupyter I already talked about. Jupyter slideshow is a very interesting one. I have not used it, but this can actually is very helpful when you're trying to present your code as a screen or something. And then there are just themes and all. So not a lot of plugins from a dev standpoint, mostly to support Python based development, but the plugin ecosystem is just crazy. If you look at a recommended, they will do dev containers, Vim, GitLens I've heard is very good, but I think they are a paid software. I'm not too sure about it. Yeah, these are some of the great extensions and cool extensions. Some more things which I want to probably talk about. There's a terminal that you can access very easily. Yeah, so here's where your output is. You can just see from here on the bottom. It's not very visible. You can go to terminal, do new terminal, it'll have it, and when you run you can see it. So this is where the Jupyter environment is running. So basically all the variables, everything is getting captured here. From a Jupyter standpoint, there's no cell tags, and this is where your terminal is, so you can do usual terminal stuff that you want to do here. I don't need it, so I kind of don't use it. And when you add more Azure stuff here, Azure activity logs come. I think since Microsoft purchased it, I've seen a little bit of slight soft push. of Microsoftish and Azure stuff in this, but it can be uninstalled. So that's it from this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. This is just an IDE demonstration. If you want more videos like this, please put in comments. If you like this video, please subscribe. Bye bye.